Hello and welcome to the FPL show on the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel. I'm your host Matt, and this week you might notice that we've got somebody else on the show. Okay, we have got something brand new. We've got Dan, who is the at UCLFanatsyPod on Twitter. Say hello to everyone, Dan.
Hello everyone, from Dan.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this episode because I follow Dan quite a lot on Twitter. We're part of what's called the FPL community on Twitter, and we have regular discussions about all things Fantasy Premier League and more. So we're going to hear a little bit from Dan later on about what his team's looking like and anything that's really interested him in FPL so far this season. Before we make a start on that, though, I've got a quick whistle-stop tour of the Gallowgateshots mini league, and it's all kicking off. So our leader is still the almighty Matt Smith. Nobody can catch him. I don't know how we're going to do it. I'm relying on somebody else who's with us today to try and do that for us. He is 16 points clear, which is madness on 785 points. His OR, his overall rank, is 3,000. Would you believe that, Dan? 3,000. How do we compete with that?
Lovely,
yeah. It's madness. And Dan, who's in second place?
Hi everyone, it's me again.
So Dan is in second place. So he's what? Do you know what your overall rank is, Dan? Where you stand at the minute?
I've written it down: 10,351. Every point that Trent got, it dropped me 1,000 places last weekend when it was on. So the ball bouncing off his arse and into Divock Origi, I think lost me 6,000 places, and he got sick. It was for those 6 points. He got 3 bonus and the 3 for the assist. So that was painful.
I did notice, to be honest, and I did have a little peek at your team, and I noticed that the only thing that I thought was missing was Trent. And yeah, I forgot he probably would have damaged you quite a lot that game.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I am sat 11th in the Gallowgateshots mini league, which, I mean, it's not the worst in the world. I dropped down 1 place. I got 66 points last week, and I think I did all right. I climbed fairly highly in my overall rank. I think I'm about 70k, something like that. So there's plenty still to do. But yeah, I'm not second. So yeah, we'll come on to you in a minute. The manager of the week.
Way through yet, Matt. I wouldn't worry about it. There's plenty of time for me to fall off a cliff.
So yeah, the manager of the week. This is what me and Dan were just talking about before. I always talk about the manager of the week, but it's never been this good. So Danny Dumas, I hope that he watches the show. He got 109 points this week, and he played his bench boost. So 109 points, 100 points in any week is amazing. But the fact that he's done it this week, which was a relatively kind of average scoring week, it's absolutely amazing. He got 109 points, and the top manager that game week got 116. So he was nearly close to getting the best score of the entire week. His game week rank was 19th. I mean, I've never seen anything that good before. I've never seen a game week rank of higher than that. Have you, Dan? Have you known anybody get better than that?
I don't think so. I've seen one guy get really high on Twitter, and I can't remember what it was, and he was posting it everywhere. But I think even that was like 37th. And that was mind blown. So, because usually for the #1 game week rank, you get someone, if you have a look at that team and you have a little scroll down to where they are, they're like 8.5 millionth in the world. They've created a team for that week, and they've triple captained or bench boosted or something like that. So usually it's a bit weird with those kind of things. So for him to actually get that with a legitimate team is ridiculous.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I remember in the past seeing like players who've been captained who you think, who on earth captains that player? Like you'll get somebody who literally captains the player who plays the first game, say if it's a Friday night, who just wants to be the top point scorer by Friday evening. People are celebrating. But for Danny to actually do what he's done is incredible. So, he, like I say, he played his bench boost, and he had Foster in goal on his bench. Luckily, because he had Sanchez in goal anyway.
He got that many points with a -1 and he's actually playing.
Yeah,
wow.
He had Sanchez in goal. He had Ben White, who got 8 points, got Gallagher, who got 11 points, and Cancelo, who got 14. And as well, his strikers blanked. He had Antonio, Vardy, and Tony, who all got 2-pointers. So it kind of says it all when he's got 109 points and his entire striking trio got 2 points each. So yeah, work to do for me. I think Danny actually overtook me because of that. So yeah, not pleased at all. But well done, Danny. So anyway, that's the league wrapped up. I wanted to really kind of focus on you, Dan, because I don't normally have guests. I've never had one before. So yeah, let's have a chat with you. Can you tell people who aren't really familiar with FPL and FPL content, they might even know there's a fantasy game that you talk about. So let us know a little bit about you, Dan.
Well, we actually don't really do FPL stuff generally. We are a Champions League podcast. So got myself and Aaron, and we have guests on. So we've got a regular guest, Nathan and Cameron. And then we've had on a couple of other guests. So we've had yourself and we've had Kevin Wolf on. And basically, one day me and Aaron were sat at work. We'd started listening to some fantasy football content. We decided to stop playing the Champions League game because we thought it'd be fun. And there was nothing to listen to. We ended up leaving our jobs and we wanted to stay friends, wanted to stay in touch. And we don't run in similar circles. So, well, yeah, should we just do this? And we ended up being fairly good at the game. We're doing all right. So we thought, yeah, we'll give that a stab. We were very slow at the beginning. Took a while to sort of build up, and now I think we're getting a lot better at what we do. We're getting more and more followers as it goes on, but we're not really the type of people that go like hunting for anything like that. It's just we're there to talk to each other. We're there to have a laugh. We're there to watch some different kinds of football to get outside of the Premier League bubble. For anyone that listens to us, I'm supporting Club Brugge in the Champions League this year. It's one of them things. Yeah. They've got black stripes. It's enough for me. So that's who we are. We are at UCLFanatsyPod if you do want to follow us on Twitter. And we are the Main Event podcast on YouTube. You might have to scroll a bit because when you type in the Main Event, you get an advert for some random wrestling film. Unfortunately, did have a little look.
Not the worst thing to look at, though.
Yeah, it's not. Watch the film. I'm sure it's great.
So yeah, I mean, for those of you who think, oh well, I'm not really that into fantasy Premier League anyway. I'm not really into more fantasy sports. I've got to say, even from a non-fantasy point of view, the UCL Fantasy Pod actually talks really well just about Champions League football. Like I learned so much about the other leagues, about players from other clubs that I never really knew about. I used to know a lot about that sort of thing when I used to play FIFA all those years ago when I had time. But now you kind of don't keep up with it. It's not in your mind. You guys kind of helped bring that back into my brain. So it's definitely full of information. So yeah, that's you, Dan. So we have got some questions for you. So first off, I just want to ask you how you're finding FPL this year.
All right, because I'm doing all right. I totally changed my tactics this year, so I'm having a much better time. I'm playing a game in a way that I've never played it before. I know that you're going to ask me later on about sort of like transfers and how I decide and that sort of thing, and that's one thing that I've been quite big on this year. And a few other things that I don't want to spoil because you were going to ask me about hits and that sort of thing. But yeah, I've totally changed how I played. I'm a lot more relaxed, but also a bit more focused at the same time. I'm trying to be a bit more mathematical with my decision making, and that kind of takes the emotion out of a lot of things, which is quite good because I'm a very emotional person. So too much of it clouds my judgment. But so yeah, I'm having a good time with it. And I mean, the only bad thing about the season so far is our team start to it. And the fact that it's a bit rubbish when you've got a fantasy game and you don't fancy picking any of your own players.
But that's the thing is, I think that's a beauty in a way because, like for example, you'll know Andy Martin, but in the FPL community, he's a Leeds fan. He's a brilliant fantasy Premier League player, last season when Leeds came back into the league, he had an absolutely awful season because he favoured Leeds players all the time, and they didn't really deliver that much for him, if I remember right. So sometimes
the wrong ones, because Dallas was great and Bamford was good, but yeah, I suppose if you went Rafinha at the wrong time, then
he missed out on those sort of other gems that were kicking around, I think, and had them at the wrong time. But I mean, not having too much emotion in FPL is kind of key, because that's when you start kind of dropping out of playing the game. You'll miss a week, or you'll just make too many like rage transfers and lose interest very quickly. So it's interesting that you say that. So yeah. Go on.
I've had a totally different start of last year as well. With last year, because it was really bizarre. With COVID, we had players not even playing in the first game week. So it was like, well, do you have Fernandez? Do you wild card in match day 2 or game week 2, whatever it's called? And I think if you'd spoke to me this point last year, I was about 3.5 million. I think by game week 4 or 5, I was 5 million. It was just so bad. And I took a risk with my bench boost in 19. Is that when the big double game week was? It was 18 or 19?
Yeah, it's normally about that time anyway, I think, roughly.
Where I think every team other than Leeds and Brighton had a double game week. So I used my bench boost as a wild card. And John Stones alone paid back all the hits. I took a -16. And John Stones got me 27 points. I ended up finishing with a net of 136 or something. And that one game week changed everything. So I ended up finishing like 200k, which is pretty bang average by some player standards. But when you're 3.5 million halfway through the season, I was like, happy days, I'll take it.
That season was horrendous though for COVID, because I remember I'd planned ahead for Leeds and Southampton getting a double in like game week 12 or 13. I think they had like a rearranged fixture, but then COVID then postponed the fixture again. So I was sat there with Leeds and Southampton players who actually then had terrible fixtures. It like ruined everything. So it was impossible to plan that season.
Bit of a rough one, wasn't it? But I quite enjoyed the chaos. I don't mind that every once in a while. You wouldn't want it every year.
No.
But the chaos and seeing some of the meltdowns was fairly amusing, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. People who spend so much time planning and then having it all swept beneath their feet.
I think that's been too much. There's too much time spent planning last year. Now I'm not even really. I've looked at stuff today because I knew I was coming on here and I wanted to be prepared. But if I wasn't coming on here, I wouldn't have looked at it until Thursday. It's the same with the Champions League one. When the games finish on a Wednesday night, Thursday morning, I get loads of messages asking me about, oh, should I do this transfer? Should I use this chip? It's like, you're 2 weeks before the next game. Chill out. I'm not going to look at my team until the weekend before, once the games have been played. Just
exactly.
Calm yourselves down. I'd say.
That's the thing. You always want to like proceed with caution, especially in international breaks and stuff, because injuries can happen like that. Like I'm probably the worst, because I'll tell people to wait and be patient and wait until Friday evening at least. But then here I've already made my transfer just because of boredom. Like it's almost like an addiction. Like FPL, I think you get bored of just sitting around and waiting. You want to kind of do something. And I jumped the gun far too early, but I can't say
little steady hits of dopamine, isn't it? That's what you're after.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we'll move on then. So, what do you use to make your transfer decisions then?
Like I mentioned previously, emotion. I like him. He's a good player. I might look at historically, I would have looked, this player's got Norwich this week. I need someone from this team desperately. This season, I set up a little Excel spreadsheet. I'm not very good with spreadsheets, so it's not particularly great. There's no algorithms or anything in it. It's just some names. Right. And basically, I set up the team that I wanted, and then I basically looked at what would my starting 11 be and who would be benched for 8 weeks until I'm going to use my wild card, because I saw the Chelsea fixtures change.
Yeah.
And then I looked at where I was on what game weeks I'd be weak. What game weeks would I have actually 13, 14 players I'm going to want to play? And then I removed some of those players, even though I wanted them, they were great players, to put in other people that would make particular game week stronger. Because all I want to do really is try and get a game week rank of 1 million or better every single week. That's it. So that's really helped. And I updated it once I used my wild card. So when I tried to use my wild card, I updated it. I started updating it today just because I knew I was coming on here, but generally I probably won't look at it for another couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I was watching Fantasy Football Hub's the Green Arrow podcast, and they had a guest on, and he said something brilliant that I'd never usually follow, and that is patience is the fourth chip. And it's something that Fergie, who presented, he loved it. And patience is the fourth chip.
By the way, such an FPL thing. That's such an FPL thing to say.
Yeah, it is. And I don't really like a lot of FPL stuff. Like, my pet peeve with FPL is when people say right decision, wrong outcome. It's like, no, it's just the wrong decision, mate.
Yeah, you've just picked the wrong person.
Yeah, like unless it's something like a few years ago when we all triple captain Mane for a double game week and he got injured 4 minutes in. Like, fair enough.
I captained Salah that week.
Look at you. I didn't.
Never captain Salah. Just stick with captain Salah. What about it?
So yeah, and that's a chip that you get used all the time. So I was speaking with someone earlier on, and I've not taken a hit this season, not one. I've made in 11. We've had 11 weeks. I've used my wild card. I used it in game week 9, I think it was, for the international break, 8 or 9, whenever that was. And I've only actually made 8 transfers outside of that in those 11 weeks. So I've been rolling. And again, that spreadsheet's helped. But what I found is I'm actually not very good at making transfers. If I look at my transfers, I remember I didn't want to burn one. So I took out Gundogan game week 3 and put in Harrison, and Gundogan scored within 6 minutes against Arsenal. That went badly. I took out Emile Smith-Rowe after about 7 weeks, and then he's just started banging them in, and his price has risen. I think I sold him for 5.4 and I started with him.
I saw you tweet about that.
The 2 good transfers I've made are Chilwell in, and that's just because I love him. We've talked about him on our UCL podcast. I got him in before the Palace game last year, before he played a minute, because he came back from injury and he scored a brace. And I risked it. This time was the week that you brought Alonso in, I think, against Southampton, and Chilwell started his first game. So I got all 4 of these goals.
Thanks for reminding me about it.
Like, if it goes well, it goes well. But generally, I think out of my 8 transfers, I think Chilwell, James have been good. I think taking Benrahma's out has been good. I don't know who I brought him in, who came in for him. But other than that, it's not been great. So it actually works out better if I am patient and if I don't jump the gun and using maths for hits. Like, if you're going to take a -4, just think about what that really means. The player that you're bringing in needs to get more than the bench player that you would have played instead of that player you're substituting out or transferring out. But they need to get 4 more points than the player that you are transferring out just to break even. Yeah. And if it's not a long-term move, then it's pointless. It's absolute. And I think if we look at our scores, I don't know how many hits are you taking this year, Matt?
Oh, far too many. Probably about 5, maybe.
So that's 20 points?
Yeah. So I started the season, I said I wanted to take less hits because, I mean, the season I did really well. The COVID season, I did take loads of hits, but I came out all right from most of them. And then the season after, I thought I was the bee's knees and took far too many, and it ruined my season pretty much. So I started 5 game weeks not taking any. Hit the wild card, then didn't take a hit, and then I took like 3 or 4 consecutive hits after that, and I started to slide a little bit down the ranks. The only one that's really done amazingly well is I brought Chilwell in, just to kind of make up for the Alonso decision a few weeks ago. I kind of highlighted that it's not gone the way that the Alonso transfer hasn't gone the way that I'd hope it would. So I'd kind of like swallowed a bit of pride and brought him in. Even though Chilwell comes against Burnley, I've got him next week now, him and James. So I'm in a good position now.
And that's the thing. Hits, obviously, they're not meant to really be a one game thing. But if you planned well, then it's hard to justify taking them. And I think you've got to take them if your team's really bad. But if your team's fairly good, then you can make it. You don't have to win every week. You don't have to clamour to get the highest points every week. Just try and stay relatively above the curve. And that's about it, really. Like, don't try and be a hero.
I think FOMO is a massive indicator for people who take hits. Like, you'll see people talking about certain players. So, for example, this week's an absolute, like, bang-on example. Everyone's going to want to get Kane, right? But then people might not have a premium striker in their team. They might have sold Ronaldo and brought in Tony to put money into midfield. They might end up taking a hit now, like downgrade somebody in midfield and then bring him. And straight away, it's like, is he realistically? He might be amazing, but in the Premier League, he's not showing anything. I know because I've owned him for the past 3 weeks. Like, he's not showing anything that he's going to all of a sudden be amazing in the Premier League just because he scored a hat-trick against Albania and San Marino.
But he scored 4 against San Marino. Put some respect on his name.
I'm so sorry. If Harry Kane's watching, I'm sorry. Nothing I can do about it now. I'll keep you in my team this week. That's how I'll make it up to you.
Yeah, captain.
Do you know what? I'm thinking about it. First time I've deviated away from Salah for ages. I am constant.
That's brave.
What's your for this week?
Say that again, sorry.
What's your transfer plans? Have you got anything in mind, or are you just
don't. I was fine, and then I actually looked and thought, oh no. So my plan was very simple. Vardy to Kane, roll the transfer. Because I've got two free transfers and I've got about 4.5 million in the bank. And in midfield, I'd be looking to, if I was to make 2, I want Cornet, Gallagher, Bourne. I'm giving away some spoilers for later on. So there are a few players that I want. That I was having a look, I thought, you know what, Bourne and 16. Anyone that is looking for future transfers, West Ham's fixtures change from about 16 onwards. In Bourne, looked great. I went to St James's Park to watch the West Ham game, first game of the season, and he did. I don't think he got any attacking returns, and he was their best player by a mile.
Yeah,
but he should be good in 16, and then obviously got Ronaldo in 16. So I'm trying to think, how do I get the best out of now, looking forward? So I thought, Vardy to Kane. And then I've looked at Vardy's fixtures. He's got Chelsea this week, so I can bench him because I've got a strong team across the board. I'm not too sure how many games they've got, but it's like there's a lot of game weeks in the next month and a half. Like,
there's like is it four game weeks in like 40 days? Is that no?
I think it's more than that. It'd be more. I'm sure it's like 10 in 40 days.
10, yes, that sounds right. Yeah, I read that as well. It's like they're going to come thick and fast now.
Yeah, so and especially if you've got I think it's 8 game weeks in 40 days, and the Champions League European teams have got 10 games because they play another 2 in that period. So there's going to be mass rotation. So you're going to want subs and all that sort of stuff. You're going to want a strong bench. But you look at Vardy after Chelsea, he's got Watford, Southampton, Villa, and the mighty defensive Newcastle United. So I'm like, I can't take him out. Like, that is such a... that is such an old me thing to do. Get him out. He's got Chelsea. Get Kane in. He's got Leeds.
Yeah.
But then, like, I don't know. Like, for me, that doesn't make sense. So now I'm trying to figure out how not to destroy my team, because I can do it, but it's about having a respectable bench for what we've just talked about. The carnage that's about to ensue with all these games.
Yeah.
I can go from Antonio up to Kane, and then I can drop Rafinha down to Cornet, and that'd be great. But I'm looking ahead, match day 13, I think it is. I'm looking a bit weak. And then if there's rotation with my team, it could be a bit dodge. I should be set, because you were talking to me earlier on about I've got no Trent. I went for Walker instead. And it's because I've already got Cancelo. For people that haven't seen my team, I've got Chilwell and James at the back. I've got Livramento as the enabler. I've had him since he was 4.1. And then I've went for the double up of Cancelo and Walker. And the reason is because whilst they only have 3 fullbacks, one of them will play.
Yeah.
So even if one of them gets rotated, the other one's playing if Zinchenko comes in. So I'm safe there. But Chelsea, anything can happen. Anything. James and but then obviously, let's say you've got one of them Man City boys stays in, and then at least I've got Livramento, and then hopefully it all just doesn't happen in the same game week. But then I've got like Brownhill playing, and it can just all get a bit messy. And it's that question: do I want to tear everything up? Do I want to break away the plan to get Harry Kane or Heung-min Son in for what is essentially 4 game weeks? Because I'll be bringing in, like I say, Cristiano Ronaldo for game week 16.
Yeah, same. Exactly the same. It's my thoughts exactly. And with Son and Kane, it's almost the unknown. It's a bit of a gamble for the money that you're paying. If it comes off, then you're looking rosy. But because I've held Kane for 3 game weeks now, I'm not going to sell him now. But
you've got Kane, you're not going to move him on. It's crazy too.
Absolutely. Especially now he's done so well in the international break, albeit against bin men. And who would be your top 5 then? Top 5 players to potentially look at for the next 5 game week, with them coming so thick and fast?
I was having a look at this. Obviously, you give me a bit of time to prep on this one, gratefully. And yes, and look, it's pointless me coming on here and saying Mo Salah or Trent Alexander-Arnold.
You're telling people to sell Salah?
Sell him. Sell Trent, please sell Trent, because I don't have him. Don't take me over. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to have a look. I've been looking at some ownership in terms of basically I went through overall ownership. Also look at some of the ownership, not everyone, of the top 10%. So I've tried to get a couple of players that are template, that the top 10, not the top 10%, the top 10K, the top 10,000 players own, so that they don't pull away from you. And a couple of differentials, basically. I've already mentioned, I think, all of these players at this point. But first of all, Cornet. Cornet is 1.9%, playing for Burnley.
Yeah.
Burnley, he's out of position, so he's a midfielder on the game at 6 million, and he's playing as a striker for them. He's, I've forgotten how many goals he's got. Has he got 4 goals and 4 appearances or something mental for them?
He's on a hot streak, isn't he? It's whether he can continue that, because Burnley aren't exactly rampant of scorers, are they?
He scored, got injured. He scored a worldie as well. Got injured. And then in his first game back, he delivered, and I think he's done it 2 or 3 times in the bounce. But if you look at his fixtures, Crystal Palace, who, to be fair, they've surprised me. They've been the biggest surprise of the season for me. I thought they were a shoo-in for relegation. I think they're playing. I think They're playing really well, even if sometimes the results aren't going the way. For how he's changed them in such a short period of time, it's great. So I think that's a bit of a so-so fixture, but you don't have to Burnley to win. You just have to coordinate a score against Crystal Palace. Why couldn't you do that? Tottenham, they've been dreadful. Wolves, not very good. Newcastle, we're bottom of the league. And then West Ham, I think, have kept 1 or 2 clean sheets. West Ham are an excellent team, but they love to concede. They remind me very much of 96 Newcastle, where it's just, come on, score a couple so we can score a couple more. Kind of. I mean, we scored 2 past them. So
that seems like a long time ago, that though, Dan, doesn't it?
A very, very long time ago. On to bigger and better things, Matt. But I just think with that run of fixtures, and for 6 million, at 1.9% owned across the game, and I didn't see him in very many top 10k teams. I think he is wanting to get ahead of the curve. Out of position midfielder. If you look at the fixture ticker, I think Burnley are 2nd or 3rd the next 5 game weeks. You don't have to keep him for 5, you can keep him for 4. And if you don't want him for West Ham or if he's doing poorly, and there's so many players around 6 million, there's loads of them.
Oh, there is.
Just jump around, jump in and out of them,
and they're worth the risk because at 6 million, you're not praying for them to get returns every week. You kind of just relax, miss the odd goal here and there, aren't you?
And especially if we look at trying to have 14 out, sorry, how many do you get? You get 14 outfield players, do you get? 11 plus, yeah, 11 plus 3.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, sorry, no, yeah, 10 plus 3, yeah. So you get 13. So you get 13 outfield players. Yeah, you're going to need, I think for this period, you're going to need 12. But you don't want to be benching. You don't want to be benching 8.5 million midfielders, really, or anything better than that. So it's 6 million. You can say, you know what, I'll stick them on the bench for a game, or I can play them if I've got no one else. Like, it's not really a headache.
No.
So
see, for me, yeah, I'm worried because especially for the run of fixtures coming up, I'm worried because I have Allen and Sissoko as my 2 of their midfielders, and I've got, spoiler alert, I've brought in Conor Gallagher for Saka. So I might have just jumped into one of your ones.
Yeah, we'll talk about them. That's a good segue, that, Matt. You've done this before.
So yeah, obviously I'm looking at that thinking I've got Gallagher, but actually I'm worried with my other 2 bench spots because if I'm needed with them, I'm kind of screwed.
Yeah. Gallagher, 10% owned within the top 10k. I didn't look at what he is overall, but
I think he's 17, if I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got some good fixtures. He's got Burnley. We've just talked about Burnley. Like, I think the great thing with that game is you don't care who wins. You just want some points. And if either of them get a goal or assist for the price, how much is Gallagher? He's 5.8 or something, is he?
5.7, 5.8. I think he's due a price in the next few days.
Yeah. So, like, who cares? Again, and you can bench him if you want to bench him. He's in great form. Burnley, Villa, who are defensively dreadful, and they might get a new manager bounce. We're not too sure about how Gerrard's going to make them look. I can't see him being a defensively astute manager in the Premier League, personally. He's free to prove me wrong. So Villa, I think, and if you want to look at forwards playing against Villa, I think that's a really smart thing to do. Leeds, never know what you're going to get with them. And they've not been great defensively this year. They've been a bit all over the shop. Man United, anyone can score against Man United. Leicester managed to score 4 past them, and they've been very hit and miss. And then Everton, again, not quite sure what you're going to get, but with those fixtures, again, let's say you're not too confident against maybe Leeds or Everton, you can bench him. He's 5.8 million. Who cares?
Exactly. And
right. He's cheap. I think we've already talked about a Kane or Son or annoyingly necessary at the minute. Leeds, Burnley, Brentford, who have fallen off a cliff the last few games, Norwich, and then Brighton. But again, if you went for Kane and moved to Ronaldo in 16, that's very, very clever. I want Kane over Son because he's an easier route to Ronaldo, although I think Son will probably outscore Kane by 2 points or something like that, just because Son's likely to he gets an extra point for a goal, and he gets an extra point for a clean sheet if they keep one, which, looking at those fixtures, they're more than capable of. Leeds haven't been in great goal-scoring form. Burnley haven't. Brentford haven't. Norwich haven't. Yeah, Brighton are a good team. So you might come into his own then. That, just to throw other players into it, it's not my plan. But if you want to look at one of the wing-backs in Reguilon, is it Emerson? Is that the player on the right-hand side?
Yeah. Emerson Royale.
Yeah. So you could look at them, but my plan since going on to wildcard, if you like, I talked about my defense earlier, is it's kind of just set and forget. I don't want to be using transfers on my defense. So instead of just messing around, I've got these 5 players in. They'll be sound for the rest of the season unless they get injured, suspended, or not even to the end of the season, but until I get a second wildcard. And if anything disastrous happens, I've still got my free hit anyway. But I think Kane or Son, you want one of them. Kane is a lot less owned than Son, so he's a bit more differential if you are looking to jump up a little bit. And the thing is with Kane as well, that some people don't think about, is if you were going to go against captaining Salah, I'd feel more comfortable with Kane than Son, because Kane's on penalties. There's never, like, in that run-in, these next 5 games, I'd expect Tottenham to get 1.
There's not been that many penalties, has there?
Compared to last year when we were all saying just get 11 penalty takers. So
excuse me, in there on to charge, or else we're just going to lose the whole show.
What was I going to say? I can't remember.
Kane on penalties, and the fact that pens are. I mentioned that pens aren't really happening that much this season.
Oh yeah, so yeah, last year we had a record number, and this year they seem to have just really, really dropped off, because we were just get 10 outfield penalty takers if you can.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think like low of averages, the type of team Tottenham are, they'll probably get 1 in any one of those games. But obviously with like Norwich, you want to captain Kane against Norwich, surely.
Absolutely.
So you need him in.
That's the big question. Do we know this?
Do we know what, Terry?
Who does Salah have the week that Kane has Norwich?
I can look if you like.
It's interesting, because if that might be a good week to go against the crowd, because that's the best way you're going to kind of improve your rank.
Oh, Wolves away.
That's a bit of a 50-50 decision, that, isn't it? He could easily go in.
He could have a hat-trick in that game. Wolves aren't great.
Let's face it, he could have a hat-trick in every game, couldn't he? Like,
yes, that's the problem with Salah. Goes off when he wants.
If you're not going to captain Harry Kane as a premium striker against Norwich, what's the point in owning him? That's what I always think. Like, you've got all that money tied up. What would be the point? Which is, so that's got me worrying. What game week is that?
15.
So that's got us stressing about that already, and it's not even game week.
Don't stress about it. It's all right. It's just a game. It's all right.
Yeah, I'll just end up dropping right the way down the Gallowgateshots league, even though I'm doing the videos, and I'll just cry every video. It's
no,
you don't every week, Dan.
It's I know how you feel. It was a bit like that with our Champions League podcast. Like the first year you do it, you think, oh, what if last year was a fluke? Or what if I messed this up? Or what if we do everything wrong? And it's
Yeah.
It can be a bit nerve-wracking. But I found relaxing about that sort of things really helped, and sort of maybe trying to not think about the external pressures of it and just think it's a game. And whether I get good advice or bad advice, hopefully people just on our podcast and stuff just enjoy the crack and that, and just want to enjoy the chat and that sort of stuff. And if we get it wrong, we'll always admit, oh, that was bad. Like I've already said about me and Smith Rowe. I capped worst game week of the season. I captained Antonio for his -2. So, you know, things happen.
So bad for you. You weren't the only one though. I'm sure Chris Wallace did that as well. From Gallowgateshots. I'm sure I sent him a message. You weren't alone there. There was so many people did that.
I'd captained Antonio the week before and he did all right for me. And then that was like a game week rank of about 5.5 million. I've had 2 bad game weeks, 4 and 5, and the rest have been pretty good. So, but it's like it's one of them. It just happens. It's just fantasy football. Like there is some skill involved, and there's a whole lot of luck. Just got to. My next player on the list, I've already talked about him, so I won't bang on. Vardy. I can't think of any other player in the Leicester team because they'd all be good. But when you look at their minutes, they don't get any. They're shocking. You've got Lookman, Iniacho, Daka, Madison, and they're all rotating. He's changing system. The only permanent feature seems to be Vardy. I've had him since game week 1, so I've got a lot of value tied up in him. But I did want to mention it because his ownership, when I looked this afternoon, was a 31.5%, and now it's a 29.5%. But in the top 10K, he's still at 43%. And I think that kind of says a lot that people are seeing Chelsea and then looking at Kane against Leeds and going, I'm doing this. And they're not really looking beyond. Because do you want to sack off Jamie Vardy before he plays Watford?
Probably not.
Like, I don't. Really don't. And West Ham fixtures are rubbish until 16. Unfortunately, I've had Antonio since game week 1 as well, so got a lot of value in him. He's had like 7 price rises or something.
That's the issue when you've got so much value tied up in a player. It starts to kind of corrupt your judgment about whether to keep them. You end up keeping a player for far longer than what you should have done. Yeah.
I think I am going to get rid because I bit the bullet with Ben Rama. I had him from game week 1 as well, and he had a massive price rise because I think he got 2 12ers in a row. And I had a lot of money tied up in him, and I think he's had an assist since I sold him. And I can't remember who I sold him for, but whoever it was has outscored him. So sometimes there is just, you've got to remember it's not about money, it's about points. So ideally, I want to find a way of going Antonio to Kane, but I need a plan, and that little spreadsheet I've got set up is going to help me maneuver to work out when I'm going to get players in so that there's not a disaster in one of these games, because there is a game week, and I think it's 13, and I'm sure it just looks absolutely shocking. And it's because Man City have West Ham, and West Ham love scoring goals, and I've got double Man City defence. And then when I look at that game week, I think Chelsea are maybe playing Watford that game. I cannot remember, but the game week that it is, I'm just thinking that's a game week for Chelsea to rotate their defence, and I've got 2 rotatable defenders. So I need to have a look and try and second guess Tuchel and Pep, which is horrifying. Horrifying. The last players were Chilwell and James. They do rotate, which is obviously a problem I've just talked about. I think you need double Chelsea defence. Looking at them, their ownership's massive individually anyway. I think a lot of people have one or the other. If you're going to want to make gains, I think you are going to have to choose two. Rudiger, I think, in the top 10K is like 50% owned or something mental.
I'm surprised actually, because now you see it. I feel like I see a template forming with with defenders, because like, I mean, I've got the template. There's sometimes nothing wrong with the template, but it's Chilwell, James, double up, Trent, Cancelo, and Livramento. That seems to be like the five-man defense template. Although the Rudiger thing would kind of say otherwise.
Yeah, I think it's just double Chelsea defense. I think because a lot of people had Rudiger, and then I went with Chilwell or James. Is the sort of sword and shield is sort of what's known in the Twitter sphere, where you have a player to protect your rank and a player to attack other people's ranks. And if one of your rotation heavy players like James or Chilwell doesn't play, Rudiger is likely to play unless he's injured, which I think is why some players took him out, because he was injured for a couple of weeks. I've just thought, sod it. Like, the pair of them get so many points that I've got to have the worst luck, which might happen once in a season. It might happen once, where Chilwell, James, and either Kyle Walker or Cancelo are all rested in the same game week, and then it's a disaster. But all three of those things need to happen. And what are the chances of that? So I've kind of got to look at it that way. And because otherwise I've got, again, Cancelo or Walker to play, fine, because you can't drop them both. Livramento will play. So there's two. So I just need one of the other three to play, and I've got three at the back, and then the rest of my team, kind of, all five of my midfielders are starters. And I've got Broha as my cheap forward, and he's in and out. So that's...
did he pick up a knock? He seemed to be like the next big thing in terms of a bandwagon, wasn't he? Like, everyone seemed to start jumping on him, but then he got injured.
And then the other two boys came back in.
Armstrong started, didn't he?
Yeah. So he's got a bit of work to get back in. The player that I've seen a lot of people bringing in is Jota. That is the bandwagon. If anyone's after some kind of top 10K or Twitter template bandwagon, it is Jota. I'm probably going to avoid Jota for my sins, because I do weird stuff like this. But he's 7.5 million midfielder playing up front, because Firmino's injured. We don't know how long he's out for. Mane picked up a knock, but we think he is going to be back. The reason why I don't want Jota is because if you look at his points per game, he does better with Firmino than without Firmino. Right. So it's better when he plays, but Mane or Salah is dropped, not Firmino. Jota's game, in terms of his statistics and underlying numbers and actual points per game, look better. He's also one of them players that isn't very good at finishing. So he gets into all these amazing positions and will miss sitter after sitter. He's overall a really good player in terms of an actual football player, but as an FPL asset, he can be a bit wasteful. But the big thing is we've got the African Cup of Nations coming up in January, and Salah and Mane are scooting off. So a lot of people have brought him in because, well, he's going to play every game. He has to play every game, and Firmino will be there, so that'll be good. And then you go, right, so who's going to be the other player then? It's like, well, it could be Minamino, could be Origi, could be Oxlade-Chamberlain if he wants to play him back where he used to play. But is that what you want? Is that a Liverpool team that, when the press starts with Mane and Salah, are they going to be as good? And I've made this mistake so many times before where I've thought, yes, this player is out, which means my player is going to play. And then you realise, oh no, because these players aren't playing, the team are now nowhere near as good. Yeah. And so for me, it's a transfer way down the line. I'll probably have a wild card by then, fair enough. But I'm going to take out Salah because he'll be going. So there's 2 transfers. And then if you've got Trent in, do you want him without the press? Are you going to keep him? Are you going to bench him? Are you going to risk him? What are you going to do there? And it's just kind of headaches. And for their midfield spots, we've spoke about other players that I think Cornet and Gallagher can match Jota for less money. And in 16, Bowen. I think Bowen's been way better. All the West Ham midfielders, Fornals, Bowen, Benrahma, have all been better than Jota. I'm
sure Bowen, I saw something where Bowen in the last 5 game weeks has created like one of the highest amount of chances behind Conor Gallagher, or the same as Conor Gallagher, I think. So he's high up there in terms of what he's putting out. You're already making me worry about Salah going to AFCON.
It's not until January, so I just can't remember when you get a wild card. But then also, do you want to use your wild card in January? Is that what you want to do?
Definitely not. I wouldn't advocate doing that at all. I'm personally not going with Jota. I already own Trent and Salah, and there's also talk of Robertson being injured, so you might want to go and transfer in Tsimikas, who was like an amazing option at the start of the season, and he's 3.9 now, so there's a massive saving to be made. But again, it's like a transfer out waiting to happen, because you just know there's going to come a point when Robertson comes back in and you're going to be stuck with a 3.9 million defender, and maybe you won't have room to get rid of him.
Tsimikas start, and I don't regret it. Because he got a couple of big scores. So it's one of them.
I'm sure he got an assist and a clean sheet at one point.
Yeah, he did. He got he got a couple of clean sheets, and one of the games he got an assist with his clean sheet, and it was he got a really good score, because he obviously got in the bonus as well. I think I owned Trent and Tsimikas. I doubled up for that game, and they both got an assist and both got a clean sheet.
Yeah,
so doubling up on fullbacks, absolutely love it.
Especially in FPL, like you want to get the fullbacks in because they'll like claw in the bonus points as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, with all of like attacking play, that just racks up so much. So because this is a Newcastle United, technically a Newcastle United podcast, are there any United players who you would be considering an FPL? Brand new manager, wants to play attacking football. We have got some decent attacking players, although they normally get overlooked because Newcastle are a small fish in terms of FPL land. Is there anybody who you would be looking at from Newcastle United?
I think there's only one, and it's Callum Wilson, and it's more than looking at him. It's I really want him in my team. And if I could have sort of a... Say that again?
Who would you take him out for? Because looking at your team structure,
it's hard. If I had a dream front three for the next, like we'll say, for the next 5 game weeks, if I could have a dream front three and afford them, be Wilson, Kane, and Vardy. Wilson's 7.3, I think.
Yeah,
so that's difficult. But I could go Antonio to Wilson, and then upgrade Rafinha to Son.
Right.
Which is a headache. It's such a headache. But I think Wilson, and a lot of people are reading into, oh, he's worked with Eddie Howe before. I kind of don't care. Wilson is just a player that scores more goals than he should with the service that he gets. And if we actually play where we maybe create 4 chances a game instead of 2, then he can score loads of goals. And if you look at our fixtures coming up, they are great. We've got Arsenal, which is a bad fixture in a couple of weeks. But other than that, it's Brentford at home, Norwich at home, and I think
Norwich.
Villa at home, I think it is. I think it's someone not very good defensively. So I think if you've got 3 home games for Callum Wilson, he's enjoyed scoring at home with the fans there. Whether we've played well or not, he's enjoyed it, and he's been scoring goals. I think Saint-Maximin doesn't get the returns when Wilson plays. When Wilson's injured, and he's the main man, he does a lot better in that respect. Defensively, I don't want to go anywhere near Eddie Howe's Newcastle defence when he is not a defensively minded coach. I think our defence will be a bit better because instead of inviting pressure on and playing our number 9 as a holding midfielder with 3 sweepers and two holding midfielders as centre-backs, I think just by virtue of being further up the pitch, we might not concede so many chances. So that's going to be a good thing, but I still don't think we're going to keep out loads of goals either. I still think we've still got the same bad defenders, and Eddie Howe isn't a strong defensive coach. So I wouldn't, maybe the goalkeeper, has Dubravka had a price drop? Is he £4?
It wouldn't surprise me, but then I can't see him having many owners to begin with. So I don't know why he would have dropped. I can't see many people selling him because they wouldn't have had him. So I think it's all to do with.
I'll have a look, see how much.
But your point, your point is like exactly right. You wouldn't be rushing to get in any of our defence. I can see many a 4-3 happening now in next fixtures.
Yeah,
it'll not be dull. Whereas in the past 2 seasons, we might have got some fluky results, but it's been terrible to watch.
Yeah, it's been death of 1,000 cuts, hasn't it? It's just it's been awful. Yeah, Dubravka's 4.4.
How is he?
So for a starting goalkeeper, he's cheap. And Newcastle goalkeepers have generally been pretty good for save points. This season's been unusually bad. If you look at last year, Carl Darlow was like top goalkeeper for the first 10 game weeks or something until Martinez absolutely smashed him, and then obviously Edison and everyone else came into their own. But I wouldn't look at you funny if you got Dubravka because he gets save points and he's cheaper than the average starting goalkeeper. I think the only starting goalkeeper cheaper than him will be Ben Foster. I think other than that, everyone is going to be 4.5 and above. And a lot of them now, your Ramsdales, your Sanchez's, your Mendy's are, well, Mendy's way more, but Ramsdale, Sanchez, 4.6, 4.7 now. So if you are looking for to save money, and you can put up with a heartache, I wouldn't recommend it, but that'd be the only player I'd go for. Other than that, it's Callum Wilson or bust, I think.
I think when I first started the channel, I started looking through like all the teams because I was giving shout outs to people who captained Newcastle United players, which actually was really fun to start with. But then I realised people aren't mostly FPL players in this league. They're Newcastle United fans. So I was getting so many people captaining Callum Wilson every week. So it was just every week I was just having a list of about 25 people who I had to keep shouting out. So it wouldn't surprise me if there was people crazy enough watching this who actually did go and get into Dubravka. Because let's face it, we're a passionate fan base, aren't we? Like we'll not think clearly. We'll just think, oh, get in, Dubravka's back. Let's chuck him in. Especially a lot of people have Sanchez, who is now going to miss the next game.
Yeah.
So yeah, love a bit of Newcastle.
I don't mind that, if you've got Sanchez and he's missing for a game, you don't have anyone for your second goalkeeper, and you need someone, you haven't got that much money. Try Dubravka, like he might get you some save points. Like, goalkeepers are so like last year. Martinez was class, 4.5 million. I think I had him from his second game back. And he was great. Like, he was my best player all year, I think.
I never owned Martinez, and I never owned Stuart Dallas. And because of that, I think I still finished. Did I finish like 300? I finished 300k. I didn't have a good season last season. But yeah, you can pretty much.
No one's really essential.
No. I mean, Salah, this maybe. You would
I'd tell it out. But of all the positions, goalkeeper matters the least. You can have some fun with it. I can definitely see him pulling off a worldy save and people drunk going, oh, I got him in.
Yeah.
Why not? 100%. It is about having fun. That's what the game's about. Like, I was having this chat earlier on about, on Twitter, it's like, oh, I've got a top 1k finish or a top 10k finish, 50k, 100, top 100k finish. There's just these obligatory like milestones that other people put out there because it's a round number, and it's like it doesn't really matter if you finish 999 or 1001. It's inside or outside the top 1K. Like it doesn't matter. Just have some fun. Win your mini leagues. Yeah. Like go and play some players on. Or like for me, I'm having fun because I'm trying to actually just play it as a game, but I'm playing against myself. I don't really like it's fine. I need other people to play so I can have a metric of what is normal. But other than that, it's just like, oh, I actually want to try and play this game in a certain way and see how it works.
Let's face it, Dan, you and your spreadsheet, you're not playing against yourself. We're playing against Matt Smith. Top of the league.
I'm coming for you, Matt. Matt's got a really good team. I had a look and I'm a bit frightened of his team. He's got a great team.
Oh, honestly, he's been top for about 3 weeks and he's been in and around that for so long. But Dan, we're going to move on because we've been recording an hour now. And this is the longest show I've ever done. We've pre-prepared and like some responses, haven't we? I gave you the question. We'll not beat around the bush. But I've kept these ones hidden because I want to be like a bit of a joke speed round sort of thing.
Okay,
so
no pressure.
I'm going to give you a choice of 2 things. You just need to choose between those 2. And it's got to like try and be quick about it. So number 1, Pep or Tuchel?
Pep.
Okay. Wilson or Saint?
Wilson.
4-3-3 or 3-4-3?
Oh, it depends for who. Ever 4-3-3.
All right, okay.
But it depends for who.
No. So obviously, from an FPL point of view, would you rather play a 4-3-3 or a 3-4-3? What would be your preferred?
Oh, 4-3-3, 100%. I'm playing 5 at the back at the minute in FPL.
Yeah.
So.
Steve Bruce or Steve McLaren?
Honestly, Steve Bruce, and I kind of stand Steve Bruce, but Steve McLaren got relegated with Champions League winners in his team.
That's a great answer. I was wondering where you were going to go with.
It just quick. I know it's going to be quick, but when you sign Mitrovic, Player of the Year and World Cup winner Florent Thauvin, Champions League and Premier League winner after Sonali was finished, Gini Wijnaldum. Then Chancellor Mbemba was in the knockout stages of the Champions League last year. He's in the Champions League this year. He got relegated with that lot. Like, Steve Bruce is the 2nd worst manager of my lifetime. A 3rd, sorry. I'm going Ruud Gullit as 2nd. And, McLaren, awful.
So, yeah, I mean, the squad that he had is absolutely ridiculous, actually, when it was it should never have been.
It was a good team that he got relegated with.
Yeah. Anyway, that was really quick fire. Prime FPL Salah or prime FPL Aguero?
Oh, prime FPL Aguero. Yeah.
Ooh.
I think Salah might have the most points, but I think Aguero was always injured for pockets of the season. So you just captain him when he was fit and he'd bang and then he'd be injured for 8 weeks and you didn't have to worry about it.
To be honest, looking back, like memory-wise, I feel like I've had more memorable captaincies with Aguero than what I've had with Salah.
Yeah,
like
I agree.
When Aguero went like off big time.
Yeah.
This is a one just for you. Champions League or Super League?
Champions League. 100%. Bloody wash your mouth.
Chilwell or James?
Chilwell. King Chilly. It's my boy, Blue.
Kane or Son?
Son. As a player, Son.
And last but not least, Jimmy Neal or Mark Knopfler?
Musically, Mark Knopfler. God, I can't even say it. I've been speaking for so long. Musically, Mark. Anything else? In general, Jimmy Neal. But come on, Mark. As a musician.
Yeah, fair enough. We have just adopted Big River now, though, haven't we?
I think Going Home is still... Like, it gives us goosebumps, that song. Like, it gives me proper goosebumps when it's on in the stadium and when the takeover went through, I just had that on repeat, going home just on repeat.
Yeah, I was going to say, I literally on the way home from work on the day that it was about to be announced, I literally had like full blast Local Hero like blaring in the car.
That's what you need.
It is what you need. Well, Dan, that is us. I think
that's done.
It's a wrap. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, mate.
It's been nice to chat. It's one of those where, I mean, I know I'm interviewing you, but it's just generally chatting to a mate.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. Make sure you go and follow at UCLFanatsyPod. Give them a listen. It's not too late to enter a UCL fantasy team if you want to. And I've got one. It's a lot of fun, to be honest. And yeah, just enjoy FPL if you listen to Dan, and it's meant to be enjoyed. Forget about the statistics, even though he has a spreadsheet.
It's not a good spreadsheet. It's not like there's any, do you know, like how people put sums and stuff to work things out? It's none of that. It's just a nice format to put in 15 names and then the names of teams abbreviated and go, all right, I don't have any players for this week. Like, it took me, I think, an hour to fill everything in and decide. So it wasn't much.
Honestly, do you know who you are? You're the guy in, like, when you're in school who says, like, oh, I'm not that bothered if I win. And then proper hammers it as hard as they can, because deep down, they do want to win.
I'm not bothered.
Not bothered, I'm second. Doesn't matter. But no, honestly, mate, thank you for coming on. I hope everyone listen. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and make sure you keep watching. Okay, bye-bye. Have a lovely game week 12. Say bye-bye to the people, Dan.
Cheers out. Bye to the people.